The morning my company went public, I became a billionaire by noon. By evening, my wife posted 3 words that triggered a legal trap. She wrote, "Half is mine."
The morning my company went public should have been the happiest day of my life. 22 years of grinding, sacrificing sleep, relationships, and my sanity, all finally rewarded. At 9:30 a.m., the IPO bell rang. At 9:42, the stock exploded beyond every single forecast. By noon, Forbes was calling me a silent architect of modern logistics tech, a $2.4 billion valuation. I had built all of it, from a storage unit, on a dying laptop with no investors, no safety net. Pure sweat, pure obsession, and while the world celebrated my rise, Jessica posted this, "Half is mine," 3 words under a picture she snapped from our marble balcony, champagne in her perfectly manicured hand, wearing the victory smirk of someone convinced she'd already inherited the empire. I stared at the caption for a long, long time, not with sadness, not with rage, but with a cold, quiet realization. She had absolutely no idea what she had stepped into. For years, she played the role of the founder's wife, the glamorous half of my public image. She loved board dinners, photo ops, investor events, and magazine interviews where she could say, "We built this together." It's funny how she never said, "we," when I was eating canned beans in the back of a delivery van because we couldn't afford rent. It's funny how she never posted selfies back when I slept under my own desk, with my jacket for a blanket, just praying our server wouldn't die overnight. But now she wanted half. She thought marriage meant co-ownership of my life's work. What she didn't understand was this: she married the showroom. I lived in the basement where the real blueprints were hidden. She didn't know that I never worked for my company. I never drew a salary. I was never on payroll, not once. She'd married a CEO, but she'd never met the architect. Because the man she married had designed something she never bothered to read, a fortress of trusts. Licensing arrangements, shell entities, NDAs, revocation triggers, and corporate firewalls that formed a legal labyrinth. Every contract she ignored. Every form she signed blindly. Every time she bragged about our success. She was walking deeper into a perfect, silent trap. I didn't need anger. I had paperwork. She didn't confront me. She didn't ask questions. She didn't even pretend to be reasonable. She sent a process server to our gate, a smug kid in a suit, with paparazzi vans waiting nearby. Jessica wanted a spectacle. Instead, she triggered a machine. I opened the envelope, scanned the divorce petition, digitized it, and dropped the file into a folder that had been dormant for years. Clause _17B_ activated, and with that, everything she thought she owned began dissolving. Clause 17B wasn't a threat. It was a kill switch woven into the licensing structure. Its language was boring, technical, impossible to find unless you knew exactly where to look. The moment she filed adversarial action, her company login credentials were flagged. Her badge access became invalid. Her cloud storage wiped itself. Her internal communication permissions were revoked. Her assistant's access vanished. Her email archives were locked. Her name was removed from directories. Her devices were logged out and quarantined. The operating company wasn't mine to lose, it was a storefront. The real IP, the patents, the algorithms, the land beneath the new headquarters, all of it belonged to the private holding trust she had never heard of. She believed she was attacking a billionaire CEO. She was actually attacking a ghost built from a dozen invisible entities. 2 days later, she marched into the office building, red blazer, heels clicking, confidence dripping off her like perfume. She waved her badge, red light, access denied. She tried again, red, again, red. The new receptionist, who barely knew her name, simply said, "Ma'am, you're not in the system." Jessica laughed. "I'm Mrs. Davidson. This is my company." But when she tried calling executives, voicemail, IT, user not recognized, HR, please contact legal, her laptop displayed a single message: access terminated, IP license breach. Not personal, not emotional, just architecture doing its job. She sat in her luxury SUV outside the building, refreshing her phone like her life depended on it, because it did. For the first time, fear replaced entitlement. She had walked into a battlefield without armor, and realized the enemy wasn't me. It was her own ignorance. 3 weeks later, she arrived in court like she was walking onto a red carpet. Designer suit, flawless hair, top legal team flanking her. A smug confidence painted across her face. She expected a war. A dramatic fight, a 50-50 split. What she got was a quiet annihilation. Stone, her lead attorney, began. Your Honor, our client is entitled to half of the marital equity, including recent IPO gains. Catherine, my attorney, simply placed a Navy envelope before the judge. Inside were 7-year-old trust documents, IP licensing agreements, and ownership charts showing I never appeared on payroll. There were intellectual property valuations, time-stamped contracts predating the marriage, and social media screenshots of her half-is-mine claims, which were fatal to her case, and finally, the prenup she signed without reading. When the judge read Clause 17B, he paused. Then he said, Counselor, this clause has federal precedent. It has been twice upheld. Your client triggered automatic forfeiture by filing. Jessica blinked. Stone swallowed. The judge continued, Your client benefited from licensed assets. She had no ownership. She is not entitled to equity she never possessed. Jessica's voice cracked. I didn't understand the details. That, the judge said, is not a legal defense. Catherine slid one more document forward, the prenup. It was a guillotine wrapped in paper. Jessica whispered, He tricked me. No, the judge replied. You failed to read what you signed. Within minutes, the case crumbled. Her own lawyer dropped her representation just days later. She lost the mansion. The vineyard, the cars, the access, the illusion of power. The image of the co-founder's wife, and most painfully, the audience she performed for. Her final social media post was pathetic. Some people will bury you under the empire you helped build. Except she hadn't built anything. She'd posed in front of architecture she never understood. She'd admired a kingdom that was never hers, and when she tried to seize half, she discovered the truth. She was never married to a billionaire. She was married to a man who planned for betrayal long before she learned the word ownership. That evening I stood on the balcony she loved, posting from, the view untouched, the empire intact, the skyline glowing. I raised a glass of cold champagne. She thought half belonged to her. She didn't realize every map was fake. Every door was locked. Every path she walked was one I designed. And every treasure she claimed was buried in a vault she never knew existed.